Okay. Is everybody here?
Yes.
You're here? Everyone's here?
Yeah. Next one. Physically here.
You got the coffee. Absolutely. Thank you. Well, hello, everyone.
Hello. Hi.
Thank you so much for coming today. I do these talks, and it actually enables me to get out of my kind of bat cave. It allows me to come out of this hole that I live in where I'm just in front of a screen for 12, 15 hours, and I can just kind of talk about some things I learned, some neat things, some things I maybe picked up in the last couple weeks, just some new, latest, greatest kind of things. Today, my plan was to talk a little bit more about, in relation to success on the internet, what I've learned from customers that I've worked with in the past and customers that I've tried to help with their online presence. And before I go any further, my name is Jason Wydrow. I've been in the industry since 1998. I built the first professional website in 1998, and I basically never left. I went to college for a while. I got overloaded with freelance work, so I did what every tech guy does. He leaves school. I don't recommend that. I'm not condoning that. I'm just saying. Unless you're a tech guy. So anyway, so I've been basically kind of up and down. I consider I've seen almost everything, and I've been through almost every experience. And I feel like I have a pretty good understanding of why the internet works for some businesses, why it doesn't, and what you need to fundamentally have before the internet can even work for you. So a lot of times there's this initial idea that when you're creating a business, that you've got to get online. If you don't have a website, you don't have this, you don't have that, you're not going to be able to have a business. There's a lot of truth to that in modern business. But what I've seen overlooked in the past and significant amounts of time is that a business will not go back to its roots, not go back to its fundamentals, not go back to the one-on-one or, hi, how are you? You know, or, and this is interesting, and this is an exercise you can do, because I really believe in this wholly, only because I've seen it work in actual use. But if you do an exercise for yourself and think to yourself, how would I conduct my business if the internet didn't exist? What would you do right this minute if there was no internet? If there was no email? If we went back to I don't know, we could say 1990 for a fair number.
Way back then?
Well, I just mean popular use, popular home use, you know, internet as we know it today. So I talk with some clients, you know, I get contacted here and there pretty regularly and say, hey, I have a great idea. I want to do this. I want to do that. And I say, okay, let's talk about your business. Tell me. And oh, it's just an idea. We're at an idea. You know, we're at this like idea, and I'm like, that's really great. And I'm going to be really honest with you. I really want your business. I really want to sell you my service, but I don't feel like I could even deliver a product to you. I don't feel like I could honestly say I can help you, because we haven't established that ground level, that foundation of how it is you work with your customers. And this ties into the whole, I mean, this ties into everything with social media, website, your presentation, who your demographic is. I mean, it covers a huge spectrum. But when we think of that, when we think of this idea, actually, I'm going to step one step back. I just want to define online presence. I use this phrase, online presence. Basically, what that means is collectively, all of any avenue online that you have, any particular location online that you're located, whether it be a banner ad, whether it be a website, whether it be a Facebook page, a Twitter account, whatever it is collectively that's your full business would be considered your online presence. So that's in its entirety, that would be your online presence. Does that make sense? So like everything that you have out there collectively is how you're represented online. The next thing I'm going to define is web property. And this is also very important. In each one of those, your website, your Facebook page, your advert landing page, let's say you have a landing page, for example, each one of those could be considered a web property. So you could have one web property, maybe just a website, or you could have 100 web properties, different ways that you're promoting out on the internet. And all of those together would be your online presence. So does that make sense? Awesome. Okay. You'll have to excuse me. I'm running through my bullet point notes. I just want to make sure I touch on all the great topics I wrote up late into the night last night, the very last minute, of course.
Inspiration strikes.
Yes, it does. Kids are asleep. Inspiration strikes. So the other really important thing, and it's probably the most important thing I'm going to tell you today, is that the internet is just a tool. It's just a tool for business. It is like a carpenter has a special saw for cutting a certain kind of wood, or a dentist might have a special drill for a certain kind of tooth. So it's just a tool, and we can't consider, now there's a very small percentage of the business that can consider their online presence is everything. And that's all they are, and that's all they do. But even when it breaks down at the very root, you find these companies are doing much more than just having a website. So the most important thing I'm going to tell you today is that the website, your online presence is just a tool to help your business. And that tool, the definition of that tool and the way you define it for yourself is the key, really, to online success. And that has basically every fundamental underlying factor that you can think of that got you to that point where you know your customer well enough. You know, for example, have you ever been on a social media site, let's say Facebook, for example, and you liked a picture? It might have been a picture that you could relate to in some way. It might have been a picture that said something to you because maybe it was your favorite brand, maybe it was something you really support, maybe it was a cause, maybe it was whatever. So that goes back to the very root of really understanding your customer, your demographic. So once you have this, and that's why I say going way back to roots, what would you do if an internet didn't exist? How would you understand your customer? How would you learn their needs? What would you do to present yourself and require that information from them to get the info that you needed to really define that for yourself? And so that helps you create the perfect online presence, because you then know, for a large part, who your demographic is, what they might be inclined to engage with. And this really applies a lot to social media, of course, because it's it's more of a social atmosphere. But even on your website or your, landing page, whatever it might be, what is that person looking for? What do they want to see? Do they want to see a face? Do they want to hear a voice? Do they just want a really technical written article because it's an engineering researcher that's looking for some information? So we really have to look at who it is you're really dealing with, And for another very important thing, simple is really good online. In most cases, keeping things as simple as possible, buttons visible, information immediately available, and in places that one would expect them to be. And we get interesting media sites and interesting, artist websites, and of course, out of the box creative, and you have a menu that you have to look for a little circle somewhere to find the menu, and it's very modern, but it's not really. But again, remember, we're talking about a demographic. We're talking about who's going to look for this, type of thing. Most businesses go into developing their online presence and building it out with the hopes that they're going to return on investment. I mean, that is really the ultimate goal. And I think, well, let me take that back quite. Let me clarify. So that is a huge goal that a lot of businesses do. A lot of businesses really want name recognition. They want brand recognition, or they might be supporting a cause, for example. So they're really just, it might be a fundraiser. It could be anything, but so it's not necessarily return on investment. It's more of how many people can you reach with a message. It's the dollar value might not even be there for some companies. But typically in most businesses, return on investment is a key. In other words, if you invest, $2,000. You hope to make your 2,000 back, and then into the future, double, quadruple, 10x that, eventually, based on that initial, setup. So, and that's another really valid point is when you consider the internet, when you consider development, you really have to look at it as, it's funny I use this, but it's almost like a guy coming to build a fence in your yard. It's a project, it's work, it's detail, it's accuracy, it's measurement, it's all these little factors that come into putting something out there that people can see, and they can actually, it serves some purpose. Fence probably isn't a good analogy, but it was more just for the idea of, so everyone could visualize that fence. So I already went over this, but taking a few steps back, try to live a few days without the internet and promote your business. Work with your business. I know it's funny.
I just had a little bit of a heart attack.
I'm not recommending it, just drop everything you're doing online. Think about how you could really achieve what you do with just your relations, with your friends, with your family. But then you can take it to a next step where you're actually, once you really have defined this, and this is so important, you can actually really start to visualize what it would be that would most effectively produce a result online. So if you know that your friends, your people like to hear about a specific product, well, hey, we better get that product front and center. We better make that service or that product something really important that people are going to see immediately. Anyway, that's just a quick note. And I pretty much went over the defining a demographic. You really want to understand your customer. If they're into football, they're into sports, fine foods, whatever it might be. Pets, taking care of pets, and it could be any topic. But and I always lean towards a very positive attitude as well. Anything very positive you can put out there, it just seems to do a lot better. A very positive commercial, a very positive message, something very, a charity, whatever it is something very positive. Just, I'm not going to get too off topic, but we get kind of convoluted with bad news every day with newspapers and everything, and everything's so bad, everything's horrible. But there's a lot of good people out there, and we're all doing really good, and we're trying to make a difference. So it's important that I always, and it's my personal philosophy, but I always try to stay more positive, stay on the positive side of things as opposed to, the negativity. So it's more of a personal approach, and I've seen that be a bit more successful online, particularly in terms of people you might want to be working with. So, okay, so the next major thing, and I kind of went into this already, but we take all of this wonderful stuff that we learned before we had the internet, all these wonderful things like, hi, seeing a person or shaking someone's hand, and you take all these things like, oh, hey, here's my business card, or maybe you even have one of those magnets on your car. I had a business in the 90s, part of my internet business. I had a magnet actually on my car, and people would call me from it. It was just different. It was, and there was this big internet crash, and I'm the internet guy, and I got a magnet on my car. You're advertising online. Well, hey, there's still people everywhere. I mean, thousands of people walking by every single day, driving by. So I said, we've got to take things a step back. So we take everything that we've learned of about your customer, everything that you know about your product or service that you've done hypothetically without the internet, and we translate all of the successful things into your online presence. We take all the things that those people might want to hear, they might want to see, they might want to listen to, they might want to read, they might want to know more about. We take all of those, and these are the things that obviously, for example, if you're selling a banana salesman and you're selling bananas all day, and everyone keeps asking, when are you going to get the special blah, blah, blah bananas from so-and-so location? And you go, okay, and you keep selling these bananas, and you finally get them, and then everybody wants them, and then you say, well, I had better translate this to the internet because obviously there's demand for this. How do I translate this banana sales online? So you obviously start promoting this really high demand product of banana sales, right? So in other words, you're not investing this huge amount on your internet without really having a fundamental business in place first. And I think most of us can relate to that, like really, before you jump into the online presence world, you really have to have a pretty good grasp on how your business works, how it flows, how your customers work. and really have some insight into that. That can really save any business owner a lot of headache, particularly when you're just launching a new business and running right out onto the internet.
This is
It is. Hi.
Sorry, Mike.
Oh, it's okay.
Angie.
Hi, Angie. Tony.
Tony?
Yeah.
What do you do?
I'm a software developer.
Oh, nice.
Please have a seat. Grab a water. Have a snack. Help yourself.
We are live streaming, so just so you know, you're being
I couldn't get on it.
You're being recorded.
you're being introduced. Just a little disclaimer waiver there.
Okay, so this goes into the whole next topic of talking to the right people. We've already defined what our business does. We hypothetically went offline for a week. We struggled, we jumped, we went through loops, we found out ways we can actually attain some business without putting an ad online, without posting to Craigslist, without doing something else. We actually found some other ways. So now that we've got this sorted out, we've determined that it's all really about talking to the right people. It's about talking to the person who you believe might be actually a potential customer for you or a client for you. So you can therefore, translate that into business potentially. You can possibly translate that into business. So it's more, again, it's really refining, defining, and breaking down what you know about your customer, what you know about your demographic, and all those details. I would make a recommendation to start to write down all the characteristics of your perfect customer. What is it that person wants to hear? What do they want to see? What do they really like a lot? What makes them happy? What can you give them that maybe no other person in your field is actually doing? So you're actually going a little bit even above. So again, this goes outside a little bit of scope of technology talk, but the whole point is that we really needed to take a step back. Okay. You guys are probably wondering what's wrong with me, because why is he telling me not to use internet? Isn't that what you do? I'm not saying don't use the internet. I'd say let's take a step back and really evaluate what it is that we can fundamentally put in place to found our business. Okay, so there's a lot of confusions and misconceptions that we all run into on the internet. Make $10,000 in 2 weeks. Start advertising today and increase sales 1,000 times. Yada, yada, yada. I mean, the same. I think most of us, if I'm correct, we're pretty beat up with hearing the same old sales pitch, the same old marketing pitch. Sign up today and blah, blah, blah. You get this and this and that. Well, I'm kind of one of those advocates for like too much truth. Like I like to cut through all the stuff and go straight down and say, let's get down to the reality, and that's why I say, where is your business at? Where is it fundamentally? What point is your business at? Is it ready really to go full effect online? Are you even at that point yet? And it's interesting for me because, I'll get calls during the week. I'll talk to different people and I just advise them, say, I really want to help you, but I don't feel like I can help you right now. I really think, maybe you could talk to a consultant, maybe you could see a business specialist and help you kind of get your strategy in line, in position, so that you can come to me and say, hey, I've worked this stuff out, let's go. Now I want a professional online presence. And I can say, sure, I'd be happy to help you. So that's what I do all day. I sit in a cave and I think up ideas and I think of strategies and I think of ways to make my clients get more business, in a nutshell. Find ways to tactically get them more business, doing things that competitors may or may not be doing most of the time. I'm really trying to be a little bit outside the box. I want to stand out a little bit. I want to be a little different. I want to do something memorable for that specific client. So that's kind of what I do all day. That's my life, basically. So does everyone feel like the wheels are turning a little bit mentally? Like maybe you're getting some new ideas? Is anything happening? I know a lot of you are experienced. A lot of you have been working on the internet. You have been probably invested a lot of money on online services, work with different companies. So there's a lot of different elements to that we can all understand about how that process goes. Does anyone have any questions right now? Is there any specific questions that anyone would like to know? You know, if you were going to call and just had a burning question like, can you tell me more about this? Or what does this mean? Or I would love to answer some questions just in the intermediate here. Come on, people. You got to have something.
What about in terms of content, video versus written versus some other form of online content?
And again, it all is the industry. You know, it all boils down to the industry. If you're promoting to an electrical engineer who doesn't really want to hear a guy talk, he wants to read this really heavy technical article about why this metal is better than that metal down to the complete science, then maybe a written article is going to be better. But in terms of a video, particularly in fields where you work one-on-one with a person, they're trusting you with their care or your life or something else. Generally, I've found that people like to see a face or hear a voice. And I think most of us can agree with that to some capacity. We might go visit a doctor and meet him first before, get a consultation before we decide if we want to use him as our doctor, or he or she or whatever, or even a veterinarian. Someone might bring their dog and say,
Did you know that's what we do?
yes, you told me. I was using that as an example.
Okay, good. I'm going, huh? Okay.
Yeah. Well, someone might come and bring their dog and say, I really like them. It was a great experience, and then they're going to come back. But, with video, Tyler, to answer your question, it's someone can kind of see you and hear you and say, hey, this is a real person. Look at it. I like his whole presentation. It's really nice. It's professional. I trust. You can build that trust there really easily with a face-to-face. And I would say, too, that you definitely want it to be, presentable as well, meaning that it has to be at a capacity that's at least at a professional level, to a level of a modern professional level where someone would expect it to be. So that's also another factor. So there's a lot of things that you can do as a business owner to really compete online. There's a lot of things you can do. I've never been an advocate of calling other companies and pretending I'm a customer. I don't advocate that. I know it's a philosophical thing. I just don't personally believe that's straightforward. But in terms of seeing what your competitors are doing, understanding them, seeing what they're doing, seeing if something seems attractive, that can be really beneficial for you. Just getting an understanding, even going and meeting them and letting them know who you are is can be very helpful, because you might be a competitor, but at the same time, you can learn something from each other. You might be able to help each other in some way or another. And I know that some businesses will they might be a competitor, but they'll refer each other because they've got too much work, they've got too much going on. So, but that's a great way to kind of get a feel of how, building those relationships is a great way to feel how one might be succeeding online and one might be putting the internet to the best of their use. Now, in terms of when you're out to actually do a project, and when you're prepared to do your online presence, there are a multitude of ways that you can do this. There's free approaches. We can build a free website. We can build a cheap website on GoDaddy. We can do all sorts of things. We can find the best deal on the local advertising, flat fee website. I've probably more times than I can count, I've had a customer come back to me that said, I'm sorry, it's too expensive. I don't know why you're so expensive. And I go back, and I'm actually not that expensive compared to, I'm really actually pretty cheap compared to some of the guys that I know.
Affordable quality.
What was that?
Affordable quality.
Affordable quality, there you go. I have the unfortunate downside of having a strong interest in what I do, so money isn't always the first thing I'm thinking of.
We'll fix
that. Okay, so I left off here. I'm sorry, guys.
Why are you so expensive?
Why? That's right.
That's where you left.
That's right. It was the costing. Okay, so basically, there's a whole process behind the scenes that goes on when you're really trying to create a well-done product. A professional generally kind of does research, and I'm not just talking about like me. I'm talking about any professional out there. They're going to do some research. They're going to try to find out how can they most effectively give you a result that's going to get results. Whether you're trying, again, whether it's you're trying to do sales, whether you're trying to promote a cause, whether a message, whatever it might be, you are going to, you're going to run into this, all these different options of prices, and you really have to think. And the thing that makes it so difficult is that it's all nothing you can really see. It's all intangible. It's like if I was going to sell you my phone, you'd say, "Oh, there's the phone. It works. Look at it. It looks great." In terms of the website or online, whatever is being developed online, it's kind of like, wait, what am I going to get? What's it going to look like? There's all these unknowns. There's so many unknowns. Or even when it's a marketing campaign, what's the result going to be? What are the numbers going to be like? And any honest developer will say, it might be there's a really good chance at this, but it's like that 100% always is really tricky. It is really tricky because there's so many varying factors in online technology, particularly in relation to search engines. There are a lot of factors that we all need to, there's 200 plus factors. Every time you type in something in Google, you say fried fish sticks or whatever, there's basically 200 plus calculations immediately happening instantly that are determining what's going to show up for fried fish sticks. And I don't know if anyone's here searched for fried fish sticks, but it's one of those, just a random phrase. But just so you know, there's that many factors going on. And you have to remember that each minute that I'm talking, as I speak right now, there is an alteration and a development of that algorithm, that mathematical application that's determining that where you're showing up. So you will see, you might wonder, how come my site isn't showing up here? How come it's not showing up there? How come it's not showing up here? And it's really just perfectionist juggling. It's perfection balancing. It's perfection research, analytics, data gathering, and it is not by any means for the lighthearted, the faint-hearted, the guy who's just like, I'm just going to build a website and there's your site. And that's what you pay for generally when you get, the good deal. You might get a site, it's got pages, but what was really done on the back end where the guy said, how am I going to actually help this person generate business? That's what I found personally. I can't speak for every developer. I can't speak for every company. That's how I generally tend to operate. And the individual who's been through in their business and have had some experience online, has had a website for a few years, they generally don't have a lot of idea what was going on with their website. They just know it needs to be updated. They know it needs to be improved. And in most cases, that improvement, I've had the fortunate success that in nearly every case, at least in the past few years, every one of my clients has had more business as a result. And I unfortunately haven't had exact mechanisms to track every phone call, to track every detail, because it's a little bit outside of my scope. But I just kind of have a one-on-one conversation and kind of say, have you noticed any changes? Plus, I do my own analysis and search based on positioning, where they were before, where they are now under certain search things. And I can see, wow, okay, he's finally showing here. She's finally showing up where she's supposed to be, and it's all relevant. It's relevant search. It's not just, the man with the elephant on the moon. It's like, who would search that, So anyway, that's a very important factor, and that's something that really should be considered. And I know there's companies that do this service. They charge monthly, there's monthly fees. There's different ways that companies do this, but generally it's more of a fine-tuned handcraft skill. When you think of a woodworker carving out a perfect, sculpture of something, or an ice sculpture, he's really chiseling out every exact detail, and that is what is involved really in performing successful search optimization. That's what it really fundamentally is. It's almost as complex as I'm going way out there. It's almost as complex as the human body. Not that complex, but it's very, very complex. Because remember, engineers, every minute change is happening, and think about developers in different areas not knowing what the other developers are doing, keeping everything very separated and segmented so that there isn't one exact key that opens the door to the whole answer, which leaves a challenge, it leaves a game, it leaves some mystery, it leaves some fun for all of us to sort out. And so anyway, it's that kind of thing. So just so that would really be classified as organic search engine optimization, whether it's Google, whether it's Bing, whether it's our friend Yahoo, and even social media sites integrate their own types of search algorithms or their own mathematical operations that occur to determine what shows up, what's showing higher, what are they going to position. If you're a paid ad, maybe you're going to show up more, most likely. that kind of thing. And it's very important to understand the difference between search engine optimization and paid advertising. I think most of us probably know the difference, pay-per-click advertising, pay-per-click campaigns, which I've seen get results. I just never personally like the approach very much, because I find that I personally believe there's more benefit in working organically, because you're really, really working on your site, you're really working on your content, and you're really putting the work in where it can be there long term, as opposed to just trying to get a new customer. So it really depends on what kind of business you're running, and if you're just on a branding campaign or a sales campaign. If you're just selling a new product that became popular overnight, AdWords might be the perfect solution. Like, boom, put it at the top of the page. Everyone wants it. They're going to see it. They order it right from us. So it's like no big deal. But when it comes to certain specific types of industries and businesses, particularly in your more localized approaches, I find that AdWords haven't been as successful. And again, going back to the prehistoric days, the 90s. Sorry to make you. I was 12 or 13. So. The early 90s. So again, going back to that very fundamental basics of understanding, your community, understanding your customer, understanding your business, understanding who the next person that's going to walk through your door, what are they most likely going to ask you or say, and after a while, you kind of almost know what's going to happen next, after you've dealt with so many people. So at that point, you are primed to get online, because you just are ready to give out the data. And again, that's another part of the whole development process is, Angie, how am I doing on time? I'm okay? Okay. So another part of the development process, would be, I lost my train of thought, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to look at my note real quick here.
You're talking about AdWords haven't been that effective, organic is more effective.
Yeah, and exactly. Yeah, it was on that. It was on that point. I'm sorry. There was a note that I wanted to. Exactly. Yeah, ending off at that point, there was your AdWords are really based on your location. But when you're really prime is when you really have understood your customer, and you're at that position where you're almost predicting what's going to happen next. You're almost predicting the questions that are going to be asked. You can almost predict the experience that one of your people have been through before they even say a word, because you've kind of mastered your skill. You've mastered what this operation is. So I use that as kind of the prime point to say this is ready to translate to the internet. You are ready, and that was where I left off exactly. And thank you for reminding me. Transitioning and translating all that into the internet is also part of the development cycle. It's a part of that development cycle where you ask the right questions, you define those questions, you determine what it is that the main focus of that business is doing, and you refine all that, and you find a way to organize it and place it structurally properly on the internet in terms of a website, maybe some other web properties, and you structure that all in such a way that everything is kind of working together. It's all kind of, your website's acting as one thing, your landing page is acting as another source. So you might have a landing page that you send to your friends and family or your immediate customers that you say, hey, would you send this out to my, would you send this out to a couple of your friends if you feel inclined? And next thing you know, someone forwards it, and it's like maybe it's a little bio, maybe it's a video, or whatever it might be. Could be about your product or service. So there's all these little tactics and strategies you can do, but again, it's really, it's going back to the old days, going back to the times when we didn't have internet, and your basic fundamental networking, basic communication skills. What can you do to just say, hey, I'm here, please tell a friend if you're inclined. I'd love a referral, whatever. So anyway, again, I'm unselling myself as a service, and that's okay, because like I said, I like to get up and talk, and I like to kind of cut through all the stuff and all the other things that I'm kind of done, like looking at those banner ads, make 10,000 overnight or whatever. I don't really like getting into that stuff. So, so I think I covered a lot of stuff. I don't know if what I went over was it helpful that everyone learned a little bit of something?
It was. Can I have a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so you're saying a landing page. A little misunderstanding there. We have a website, of course, and we have Facebook, and we have a blog, and all that good stuff.
Yep.
But like you're saying, take a landing page and send it to your friends and neighbors. Now, what we have is like a little referral card. And please refer your friends. If you like to hear, refer your friends and neighbors.
Do you mean a physical referral card or an actual
We
online?
now have a physical referral card.
Okay.
So what popped into my head when you said landing page, so you create that something totally separate from your website. You go to GoDaddy and buy another.
Is that? Go ahead, please.
My
go ahead.
question is, first of all, how do you get a web landing page, and how would you refer to others? And could that be a useful tool?
Oh, on your last question, absolutely useful tool. The second thing is you have to really kind of figure out what purpose that page is going to serve and what it's about. Whether it's about your whole practice, whether it's about a specific service that you offer, whether it's an introduction of the doctors, whether it's an introduction to the surgeon, whatever it is that you feel that your customer would really want to, know a little bit about.
May I just make one clarification?
Yeah, they both know our business really well.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The landing page is really just another page on your website. It's not separate from it. It could be, but it doesn't need to be. And it's not part of your navigation. It's just a page, just one page.
And typically, right, that's exactly right. And typically a landing page could be under, like she said, under your domain, but also typically it doesn't have anything else on it except what you want to be displayed on that specific page. In other words, there's no other menu buttons, there's no sidebars with more information. It's basically just boom, quick page, quick information, which friends and friends and friends, and you can just send it wherever you want, and it's real simple, and it's got the internet feel to it. It's got that, I don't have the time of day to read this. I don't have the time of day to sit here and read a whole web page. You might have a video on there, you might have an introduction, a quick blurb of educational background, some links to get a quote, fill out a form, to book an appointment, whatever it might be. It can all be included right there, strategically. So anyway, it's a real simple way for someone to say, hey, check out this person, I really recommend them, as opposed to, here, check out their website, and you go to the website, and it's like, okay, now I've got to read a little bit here, and I've got to sort this out, find the phone number, whatever it might be. So anyway, it's kind of a, you can look at it more of as a direct connection between the customer and the client, or I'm sorry, the customer and the business. Just it's bare bones, as dry as it gets. With an artistic flair, if you can,
So instead of having a website that you're trying to do maybe Google AdWords or have organic searches or whatever that are bringing people to the website, this would be more like an internal thing where the staff sends it to people or friends send it to people.
Yeah, absolutely. And it would be, again, you would really want to focus it on, it could be more of a general message or it could be more of a focused message. For example, I don't know enough about the veterinarian industry to answer this probably most adequately, but I would say that most people bringing in their pet would want to know who the doctor was or the surgeon, maybe see them or hear them. So maybe an introductory video of, hi, I'm Dr. So-and-so, and I do these types of surgeries. So you might, with a landing page, you want to keep things as specific as possible, unless it's just more of a general kind of, but generally you take a landing page and have a topic associated with it. That's not the hard and fast rule, it's just what you branch off into is a landing page for every one of your main services and a way to present it very simple so that someone can find you. Yeah, and with your AdWords, you could work that in directly. You could link directly from your AdWords to the landing page. And remember how AdWords work. One of the main factors of AdWords is the relative of the content and what you're actually posting about. So if you're advertising pet de-towing or declawing, sorry, declawing. I'll correct myself. You could technically have a landing page that we offer this maybe as an introductory service or something, and and it could be a page about how the tools you use. I mean it's probably not that important, but
That's interesting. Thank you.
you are welcome.
Well, I have a landing page for what I do. My employer came up with it so that when I send it out, people see that, and instead of just going to the website, like maybe there's a client that a potential client turns into an actual client, if they just signed in on our normal website or requested information on the normal website, they don't know that it came from me. So I have a landing page that's specific, like I'm the only one that sends it out, because if if I get a potential client to sign in for information and they become a client, they know it's Casey, because they pay on commission. So they know, oh, we need to pay this person. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And it is very general. It just says we do web design, SEO, branding, click, like, and then give us your email if you're interested in a free coffee. So it's pretty easy, and it's a short URL. You just send it.
That was a really great
Yeah.
point. And yeah, and you can have a contact form directly on the page as well, so that someone could just fill their name, first name, last name, email, contact you directly from that page about that specific service, or again, if it's just a general information page. So that I really am a believer in the personal networking and putting in that message, that clean, simple message into as many hands as possible through mutual friends, through family, friends, and current clients and things like that. So it would be a fun game, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I think you would have fun with it. Okay, so let me see if I have any other main topics, because Angie is going to talk a little bit about mailing list management. And it's not something that it's something I do, but it's not something I do near as much as her. Some things I just wanted to quickly go over, just so we have a full perspective of what's really involved in a website or online presence project. We have some visual design. We have functional design. How does it actually work when someone goes on it? You click here and it goes here. We have something called flow control, where you have a button that says get started, or it's basically a call to action. So you find a way to kind of guide this visitor, whoever it might be, right to where you want them so they can get the exact information they're looking for. We have bug resolutions. Maintenance is a really big one. It's a big one that I think, at least from my experience, most business owners that I've consulted don't think about maintenance. Maintenance is like, oh, maintenance? What do you mean? Like, what is that? Technology changes faster than I can move my hands or anything else. I mean, it's like every second there's something new being developed, a new way of doing something, a new strategy, a new method, there's new programming languages and variations of programming languages being developed. There's just so many different variations, and as we progress, technology becomes old rather quickly. Most of us know this, we have technology, and we're, at least every couple of years we've almost got to buy a new computer, to be up to speed. Or a new phone, but with websites, I found there's usually a 3 to 5 year shelf life with websites. There's been about a 3 to 5 year shelf life, and it also depends. That means if you just built it and you just kind of let it go, you developed it all as it was, and you kind of just let it run. Now with maintenance, that would be like more of a monthly or 6 months or whatever it might be, and it could just be like a few hours for a developer to go in there, make sure you're all up to date, make sure you're running the latest code, make sure you have no major security vulnerabilities, that you're going to wake up one morning and see, we were here on your homepage. And I've seen those. When I had a hosting company back in, I got out of the hosting business, but in 2007, 8, I had a dedicated server through a third-party company that I managed. It was a managed server, meaning that I didn't actually own the server. Someone else set it up, and I just would access it to put websites up, basically. And well, sure enough, one day, and this wasn't the first time, but someone had actually hacked into the server facility and posted and blasted across almost all of their websites on many other servers. So we woke up with like the internet army was here, and my phone is off the hook, and I'm like, whoa. So anyway, there's a lot of different ways, and that doesn't necessarily mean there was anything wrong with the way the website was developed. Let's just say that there's a lot of entrance points that most people don't think about when in terms of accessing, in terms of security. So anyway, that was an interesting experience. But anyway, in terms of your maintenance, it's kind of keeping it up. So maybe in 3 to 5 years, you don't actually have to redevelop your whole website. Things were just kind of kept in as you went along, and you had a developer who was kind of hip to the latest thing. And again, it all depends on the technology you're using. And you might pay $175 an hour for a specific type of development, or you might pay $50 or $40 an hour for another type of development. So it all really depends on how your site was built, what it was based on, and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of technical aspects involved. So we have maintenance, we have bug resolution. Another thing, that a lot of business owners don't generally think of. If there's a bug, we forget that we went to turn on Microsoft Windows at one point and your computer stopped working, or your screen went blank, or something else happened. So we forget that these multi-million, billion-dollar conglomerate organizations create software, and even they have bugs. So we're talking about a website developer who's building a site or building a project, and then this one day something's not working right. And yeah, I've got a dog in the fight for the development community. Yes. So we have to also understand that there are bugs that do happen. The important thing is that they can be resolved, they can be fixed, and the developer that's working with you knows how to do so. So that's a very important thing. Anyway, we have new products, customer support, marketing, different types of alternative testing. You might have a campaign or a specific landing page, for example, that you put up, and you're kind of comparing the two. They're both on the same topic, but you're kind of seeing which one performs better. So you get into all these different variations of promotion, campaign, and I believe the right word I would use is more of a technical term, but A/B testing, where you're kind of seeing back and forth what the differences are and how those are responding. So we have social media. We have product updates and management. Copywriting is a huge one. A lot of business owners sometimes think I'm going to be able to do all the copywriting. I wish I was a copywriter. You don't want me to write all of your copy. I work with your copy to help I would say optimize it to make it the most effective for Bing or for one of the major search engines such as Google. Anyway, so that's pretty much it, guys. I mean, I think I tried to cover as much as I could. I have a lot of stuff I could really get into. But actually, you know what? You guys want to hear just the top 10 modern things that are like the top 10 best practices? Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Trick question? Okay, so we already went to online presence defined. That was a prerequisite to everything, is understanding what an online presence is. We already know that. So number 2 is your functional and usability aspects. And again, this is kind of like going over some of the things I went over, but you have to really think of how, again, it goes back to the old days. How is your customer going to interact with your website? What technology level might you be? How inclined are they to actually click on a button? How inclined are they more likely to call you than to use an email? Where are they at? And it's interesting because in the tech field, it's real easy for any one of us to get caught up in we just want to make everything hip and modern, as cool as possible. We just want this form that does everything. But the person's like, I just want to talk to somebody. I don't want to fill out another form. So we have to kind of, again, we rewind and go back to how does a person actually respond? How do they want to respond to your service? So anyway, that's a function. So really, that's on the list. That's number 2, and it's not number 2 in priority, but it's just number 2 of one of the very important top 10 things to really think about when you are doing any type of online campaign or building a website or anything else. The organization of your service, products, information, and the division of those. So always think about how the structure of all of your website information is. Whether you're working on a client project or your own project, you really want to find out how you can define and categorize all of their main products and services they offer. That is going to not only give the search engine a lot of extra information, but it's also going to give that potential visitor that really wants to know, do you offer this very unique, specific service? Do you offer, you know what I mean? So you're really capturing every area, but you're making it accessible. And that's, a lot of this is common sense today. It's a menu. You would have a category with a menu, a product menu, a service menu, about us page, a help page, common FAQs, or just FAQs. You know what I mean? So you got all these different, and again, it all is really relative to your demographic. It all is relative to what your, like me, I personally like to just fill out forms. I'd rather fill out a form than actually make a phone call. But if I did that for my customers, they would be out of business. Because I would say, don't put a phone number on there. You don't want a phone number, Everyone likes filling out forms. especially really long-winded forms. Right? And it's funny because one of my forms is actually 3 pages long. And it's intended that way because I want all the information. And normally I would sit down with a client or customer and actually go through it with them. But anyway, it's a very long form, and I know you might wonder, why does he have such a long form? Well, it's because I do things a very certain way, and it's very, very unique way. Okay, so simplicity of content manage and social media integration. So how easy is it for you to sync and migrate all of your, let's say you have a website and you have a blog. And this applies to a very specific group of people that might have a blog or publish articles or new products and services. Is that all synced up with your social media? Meaning, is one click and you can ensure that that's published or determine what social network that's published to on one click? If not, it's really a good way to think about going, because you can really maximize your time, efficiency, and you don't have to really think, oh wait, did I post on Twitter? Did I put that up on Facebook? You know, so anyway, it's efficiency really. And there are a lot of solutions out there that can offer that, particularly with WordPress. Yes, I support WordPress. Therefore, that's why I have a big W on my shirt.
Can I make a comment on that really quick?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm an avid social media marketer. I love it.
Yeah.
And I noticed, so I do a lot of work with Twitter. But when you automatically post a blog to Twitter, there are no hashtags, or you're not tagging a person. So if you were to do that, maybe post it on Facebook, but don't automatically post it to Twitter.
That's a very good point.
If you want the engagement, if you want people to actually see it, use a hashtag. So if you're doing something about web design, like hashtag web design, people will follow that hashtag. Or tag, if you're replying to, or if the blog is in response to an article, maybe tag Entrepreneur Magazine or something, so that other people are going to see it besides your followers who are on that data, which it may not be done.
Sure, that's a great point. And you can actually, there is some other tools we can use also to add hashtags. There is some development software available that can do that as well. But it's not, it's a little more advanced for sure, but she is absolutely correct. If you're on Twitter, use hashtags. And again, it goes back to that point of like YouTube, for example. You're not going to post on YouTube unless it's a video. You know, it's just, why would you post there? It's not going to work. So there's a lot of anyway. The point is you know, really try to make your life efficient as possible using tools that get the job done with the least amount of steps. But obviously, you want results. And personally, I could even lean towards, you know, I mean, in a perfect world for a small business, it would be best if you had an individual or one or two individuals, ideally one individual managing each social network. That's really the best way, because each one is their own total sphere of information within themselves. But, you know, if you have to do it yourself, then, you know, your hands can be tied often with tons of other stuff that you're working on. But in a perfect world, one person for each social network is what I would personally believe would be I know from experience working with some companies that has been their most successful, hands down way of going about it, because each one of those persons, you know, whether it's Pinterest, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, you know, YouTube, each one of them specialize and they know how to best, you know, if there's a new article or something posted, they know how to best approach it, what time to put it up, what they're going to hashtag, you know, everything else about it. So anyway, that's the that thing. Okay, now articles, and this is kind of, I'm a really, really big advocate for businesses to be involved online. Businesses should be, the way that I see the internet is the most wonderful and beautiful place to educate people, to teach them about something new, to promote a product, whatever it is, but keeping the world informed with your profession and what you know. That's what makes the internet so valuable. And that's kind of why, one of the reasons the internet became so big as it was, because it was this absolutely amazing way just to share data, share information, and in such an easy, fast way. Think about it, a link across the world within seconds. You know, it's just the speed of data that we can do with the internet is just, it's just amazing. And it still amazes me, and it shouldn't amaze me, but it still amazes me.
So write articles from
system.
Absolutely. And anything, you know, I mean, it's just, and again, this is going to help you with your search engine. This is going to help you with potentially finding that client that could have fell through a hole because you wrote up a topic that happened to become a popular niche topic. And maybe that topic became first position on Google under a certain search phrase because you were the first one to ever touch on it. So, and then the traffic from it and every other mathematical characteristic that goes into that page that Google says, hey, she was the first one to post it. It went up on this date. There's 10 people reading it a day. It seems to be a really popular article. I mean, with 200 plus other things going into that, but that's just a few. You can see that you can secure a position for yourself with certain industries. So if you're on a cutting edge topic or a cutting edge business or a cutting edge method in your practice or service or business, it's very important to talk about that. It's very important to write about it in a way that, and it's also very important to write about it in such a way that the reader would actually understand it too. It's tricky in a technical industry, but it is achievable. It takes a little art, I would just say. Okay, so obviously, I got into online internet-based, I experimented with a bunch of internet-based, social media-based referral reward systems just to see how they worked out for myself. And I'm in a development project. So basically, we're developing this. It actually works, but it allows you to create an incentive-based, reward-based system. Whereas if you, for example, if you say you have a page that if I share it with 10 people on Facebook, you automatically reward that person who shared you automatically with a coupon code. The next time I come to your office, 10% off, whatever, defined however you would like. So you're actually incentivizing your social media by offering rewards based on incentive-based rewards based on how active your friends are and your family or whoever sharing with others, and counting and tracking those numbers and determining. And it could even go as far as a goal, meaning if someone actually fills out your contact form to request a service, that could be a point. It would really depend on what your business is, but it is a tested work in progress, and we've had some results with it. And we're not the first people to do this, but we're doing it in a little bit of a different way, where it's a whole other topic, but the point is you can translate that basic referral type system onto the internet and find a way to capture your new customers and offer something to your existing for a reward. So that was actually a major point, because it's become kind of a modern in the past 3 years. It's become kind of a modern way for certain businesses to really create new business. And I know some companies give away like an iPhone but if you think about it, it's interesting, you could buy an iPad for $300, $400. But if your reward is whoever rewards, refers 300 people first, might get it. And how much would that translate? 300 referrals, maybe you get 2% or 5%. But still, what if you get 3 customers out of that? Does that easily pay for itself? So we think of all these different, we think, oh, I don't want to give away something. And again, you also have to think about the technological aspect of making sure that the referral campaign can't be hacked or modified. So, that's something that I had to partially sort out. So anyway, there's a lot to it, but it's something to think about, And again, I'm not the only person doing this. There are other companies that have this available. We're just doing it in a bit of a different way. So the other really important, and one of the other important one of the very basic fundamental things is how well does your site compare to some of your competitors, your immediate competition, And again, I'm not the spokesperson for this because I don't get to work on my site really anymore, and it's like not that. And years before, every year I would redevelop and redesign, and I had all these. I got really into just experimental stuff with my own site because I wanted to experiment on my stuff before I went to a customer. It's a little bit fair. So I use my own site as kind of a testing bed for a lot of stuff. But anyway, look at your competitors, get an idea of what they're doing, see what they do, see how you compare to them, and then really try to step back if you can from the view of, again, looking at your demographic, are they going to more respond? What would they really respond to? I mean, what it really comes down to. Okay, so a really important topic, again, it goes back, this is more of a technical topic, but website pages, particularly HTML5, is everyone familiar with that phrase, HTML5? Basically, it's the latest evolution of what's called a markup language. Now, markup language really is nothing more than, when editors made notes, when an editor makes notes, and when an author gives a book to an editor, they make these little notes, and they're markup notes. This needs to be bolded. This needs an underline. This needs to be italicized. So that's really all it is. It's a structural language that it's not really a programming language per se. It's more of a structural language. And when you think of structure in terms of, I use search engine as a perfect example, because when you think of structure, you think of how would the perfect search engine read that structure? See if that hierarchy is correct, meaning is that header using the right markup language? Is that title using the right markup language? Does this link have the proper embedded, I don't want to get too technical, but let's just say the link is structured properly with the proper information that's needed so that the search engine can determine where this link goes. So there's all these little tiny little details in terms of all this markup. And again, this goes back to a quality aspect, really looking at the details and fine-tuning everything as a professional. And so it just kind of falls back on the importance of hiring someone who really understands how a page is supposed to be put together so that it can be optimized completely, not just for the search engine, but also for the future. So you're kind of future-proofing yourself as well. There are anyway, it's an interesting topic, but we all have to remember that the internet is evolving into more and more quality. It's going to keep going more and more and more in terms of quality, the content, the structure, and sites, websites and web presences that are using and following and adhering to these modern standards are more likely going to be published. They're more likely going to rank well on Google. They're more likely going to do well because Google's interpreting it with a lot of their algorithms going, hey, this was built correctly. They followed the proper coding standards. And I'm not talking about every single nitpick detail, but it's safe to assume, there's a large percent of that. Quality is very important. And also doing AdWords, quality and relevant of content is very important, as you guys, I'm sure, all know. Does that make sense then on the HTML? And just so you know, it stands for Hypertext Markup Language. That's all it is, just an acronym.
Okay, so it's just the next evolution is 5.
The next evolution is 5, but I don't want to get too complicated, but HTML5 is kind of an evolution of a multitude of technologies. But HTML in itself is that basic structure, that basic, if I was going to build a house, I would put a certain 2x4 size, on the exterior for the weather, and I would have a certain type of concrete that I would use for the floor, and I would have rebar maybe on a certain wall that was maybe a garage wall or something. I could be wrong, but so there's all these exact standards, right? So we're moving in a direction where the internet, websites, what I envision, what I know is going to happen, and I shouldn't speak too soon, but there's going to be, there's very strict standards being applied today to websites and how they're developed, and really focusing and honing in on that quality and making sure that we're building stable websites that's going to work, and we're not just cluttering the search engines with, another whipped up site that's like kind of half broken, doesn't follow anything, and it's like, you know what I mean? Because we have to have some order in order to improve for the future on that. Yes.
I heard Google really likes WordPress besides the artists on WordPress. Why is that?
Because WordPress is a brilliant work of art. It was developed by a lot of people, but it was, the idea behind it was really originally it was created as a blog. And as a blog, I obviously, back in when the big blog rush came, it was like early 2000, 2003, I think it really became pretty prominent. But the idea was that bloggers wanted to get recognized. They wanted their articles to be seen. They wanted their articles to be read, because that's what a blogger does, right? So WordPress, basically, the developers of WordPress basically found out a way. They found out all the little cracks and nooks and everything that was applicable, and even to present day, of the major search engines, including Google, how to properly develop the site, give it all the things it needs so that the search engine can best interpret it out of the box. Like, out of the box. That doesn't mean that you don't need to have certain data in there that the search engine can read. Meaning if you just post a WordPress site, you know, it's just a WordPress site. But everything is set up structurally in such a way when you start adding your content, when you start building on top of it, and if you extend it, which is what I do a lot, I extend WordPress, you're ensuring that you're following those basic standards and keeping them in the whole way. So WordPress in itself has been endorsed by Google employees at very high levels at times over the past few years. So it has been mentioned and supported openly, and it's been called, you know, a work of art, and you know, major companies use it. Forbes magazine, New York Times, you know, I mean, like every major publishing company has some blog or some fraction of their online presence is using WordPress. So it's very effective, and it's free. It's open source software, which is beautiful. It's free to just take it. Again, where you go from there with it, really, you generally need a developer to come in and help you sort it out and do it right. So it's one of those things. But that's also the beauty of it too, because guys like myself can download it, toy with it. The code's all accessible. We can modify it. We can extend it the way we want. I mean, that's what makes it so beautiful, because it's completely flexible. And going back to your demographic, flexibility is everything, because you want that unique thing. You want something a little different. You want to present yourself a little bit differently. You're rememberable, right? And I'm not a marketing